Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Myself. This is a really important episode if you are a woman because there are so many ways that we can reframe this word. And it is a word that I know so many of you are quite scared of when it comes to being at home, in your friendship groups, at work, in your business. This word can actually bring on like this hyper fixated fear, right? And this is what I'm seeing so often. High functioning, accomplished, deeply loved women. And you're all coming into my world describing the same thing. So this is what I want to talk about today. If you are in this world, this episode is for you. If you feel like you shrink, if you feel like you have no business being seen, if you feel like you have it all together and you are scared that one wrong little move is going to make your house of cards fall down, if you feel unseen, this episode is for you. So what we're getting into today is visibility, what it actually is, why most women are getting it wrong, and how to be seen in a way that actually feels like you. I also want to tell you before we go anywhere that this episode is quite personal because there is a woman that I think about almost every single day, and she is the reason that I show up to do this work at all. I'm going to introduce you to her later, but this is something that has driven me in my personal life, in my work life, to actually keep showing up, to keep being loud, to keep standing up, to keep being tall in all these areas of my life. So I know that this will really land with you. Let's go. Welcome to the Pursuit of Myself, the podcast. Here we take ownership of our healing. We rewrite the rules, we turn knowledge into wisdom, and we lead our lives with intention. I'm your host, Rain, and it's my mission to empower you to get back into the driver's seat of your life. So I need to clear something up before we go anywhere, because when I say the word visibility, most women immediately go to marketing, posting, being out there selling. You even see me in my social media, you see me on stage, you might hear me in this podcast, and you're like, wow, she's confident, she's visible, she's showing up. All whilst it is a yes to that, there's a version of visibility that's been sold to us, and it's not what I'm talking about today. Visibility is actually so much bigger than that. Visibility is about how you show up in your life, in your marriage, with your friends, in your home, with your extended family, in your business, online. Yes, but there is one part of it. That's just one part, not all of it. Visibility is whether you're asking for what you need. It's whether you're saying what you actually think. It's whether you're letting people closest to you see who you really are, or whether you're handing them a version of you that's been edited down so that you might be easier to live with, so that you're not rocking the boat, so that you're not needy. It's whether you're actually here in your own life or whether you're just managing your way through your life. That's visibility, taking up space, being seen. And most women I work with have never actually had that. Not really. And I want to talk about why, because if you're listening to this and you're feeling it in your chest, they're feeling that ick. Oh, Rain's asking me to stand up, to, be loud, to be seen, right? I want you to know that this is not a personal failing for you. This is something that we were taught. This is something we were conditioned to think, to behave like, to feel like, especially as women. Don't be too much. Don't be too loud. Don't rock the boat. This is what we were taught. We were taught to shrink, to make others comfortable, to put everyone else first, to not be too loud, too needy, right? To be the easy one, the one who reads the room and simply just adjusts to what's going on, the one who doesn't make any waves. And it's really important that we sink into that, because when we talk about visibility and when we talk about all the things that I'm bringing up today, if you really rooted in that fact, if you are like, this is how I was taught to be, not, I can't believe you're not showing up. Oh, I need more confidence. Oh, I need to feel worthy. If you just take all that out of it and just simply sink into the fact of the conditioning that most, if not all, I can't say all, most of us have been put through from the moment we were little, right? You are this way. You're not showing up. You are not taking up space because that's what you were conditioned to do. Take everything else off the table, right? You were taught to shrink. And when you did, the world actually rewarded you for it for years, for decades. And in those moments, you still got the husband and you got the friends and you got the invitations. You know, maybe you started that business. But being small, after the conditioning starts young and it carries on through, you're like, oh, it still works. I still don't have to be standing up for myself, right? So when I sit across from a woman now and I say, what if you could take up more space in your life? What would that feel like for you? What would that look like? Her whole body reacts because taking up space, it doesn't feel neutral to her. It feels really hard. It feels almost arrogant and selfish, and it feels wrong. And then the mind comes in and tells you all the reasons why you shouldn't. But underneath that, there's this fear, because what we do carry is this fear of being judged, the fear of someone saying no, the fear of rejection, the fear of being torn down, the fear of being seen and still not actually getting what you are putting yourself out there for. And this is a version of you that has become used to actually being small. So I want to just rip that apart a little bit, because if you could hold yourself with compassion because of your conditioning, right? It's not you, it's not your low self-worth, it's not your confidence, it's your conditioning. Then understand that the nervous system is coming in and going, oh, we want to keep you safe, small. So we're going to put this fear and we're going to call it all these fears of judgment, fear of this, fear of that, right? It's very perfectly placed survival system. You get to start now looking at yourself differently. And I want to be really clear about this. The fear, it's not that it's made up. The world has, in fact, punished women for taking up space. It has. And your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do. That's that beautiful, sophisticated survival system I was talking about. So I'm not doing this to gaslight you here. I'm doing it to educate you so that you can zoom out and have a look at a different perspective, right? We want to honor the conditioning. We want to honor the space. We want to recognize the fear. And we also do not want to stay there. We don't want to stay there, because here's what most coaches won't tell you. Just put yourself out there, push through, ask for what you want, post more, get over it, be braver. Right? It doesn't actually work. You can't will yourself into being seen any more than you can pull a tree up by the leaves to make it grow. Visibility is not a push. You might be able to jolt your nervous system into being visible and to posting something and then realizing you're safe. But what emerges from a woman who's built something underneath first, if you take this time to emerge and build this up, this strong foundation underneath, strong enough, something that's strong enough to hold you, that's where the growth comes in. That's when you're able to handle whatever is on the other side of you stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that's the part that nobody's teaching. But this is the part I want to give you today. This is the part that if you are wanting to, and I hope you are all wanting to, be more visible in your life in whatever capacity, if you're desiring to take up more space, this is what I want to give you today. Okay, so let's talk about what's actually underneath a woman who can be seen, because there is a shape to this. There is a flavor to this, and it's not random. It's not a personality. I'm not just confident because I suddenly woke up one day and was confident, was able to come onto social media and MC and, speak. It's not just something that some women have. There is a way of being. There is a way of conditioning the nervous system to show up in a different way. And once you know what it is, you can actually start building it. Now, where we start is with the strong foundation, the foundations of who you are. And I don't mean sort of affirmations and mindset hacks and tools. I mean actual ground, the relationship with yourself that doesn't get blown over by someone else's mood, a sense of who you are that doesn't depend on the room agreeing with you. The woman without the foundations gets visible once, gets one hard comment, one eye roll, one pushback, and she goes back. She's destroyed. And she's decided that that is not built for this. She is not built for that world of being visible. She is not built to be seen, so she shrinks again. What we want to do, and this is all the basis of the work that I do, whether you're building a business, whether you're scaling, whether you're connection in your marriage, whether you're working on friendships, whether you're healing from, divorce, we must work on the strong foundation underneath, which is underneath the self-worth and the conditions that we put on ourselves. Because visibility without the foundations is just exposure, right? We are exposed, and visibility with our foundations is being present, it's being connected, and it's in this deep trust of I've got myself no matter what. Now, the foundations actually get built on top of self-awareness, because you can't take up space as you if you don't know who you are. And that's the thing most women don't want to hear. Most of you are taking up space as the woman you were conditioned to be, right? The good one, the helpful one, the one who reads the room and adjusts. But that's actually not you. That's the costume. That's the version of you built to belong in the current reality that you're living. Now, this is why the foundational work is so important, because you can go and do a social media class. You could do a relationship counseling. You can go and seek all these things outside of yourself to tell you what to do. But if you are not practicing self-awareness, if you are not understanding and knowing the difference of being so self-aware that you know why you operate the way you do, nothing is going to change. You are going to constantly be looking for something outside of you to tell you that it's safe to be seen. This is an inside-out job. Knowing the woman you are versus the woman you've been performing as, wearing that costume. And until you've met her, you cannot show up as her. Until you've met that woman underneath, that one with the self-aware and the strong foundation, you can't actually show up in her as her in your life. Then there's this relationship that you have with your fear. And this is where I see most coaches get spectacularly wrong. They'll tell you to push through the fear, to beat it, to conquer it. Like the fear is the enemy, like you need to slay the dragon, right? And yes, sometimes I get the slaying the dragon. I do actually use that saying with my clients, but I do it in a different concept. And I want you to hear this from me, because if you look at fear as the enemy, then you are always going to be hustling and pushing and coming up against yourself. But fear is not the enemy. Fear is the information, right? Fear is the signal that you've been standing on the edge of something true, the boundary between who you have been conditioned to be and who you actually are. So the work is not to get rid of the fear. The work is to create a strong relationship with it. The work is to move with the fear. And a woman with a real relationship with fear can be visible and afraid at the same time. That is the skill. It's not about being fearless, but it's creating this beautiful partnership, this beautiful duality of life, to be visible and afraid. But what supports you through that? What actually allows you to be visible and afraid and still take action regardless of the fear is your strong foundation, is knowing who you are. That is the secret sauce. That is the first step, because then there's authenticity. And this is the one I want women to hear most about, because authentic visibility does not look the same to everyone, right? There's no blueprint. There's no template. Some women are seen quietly and softly, and some are seen on stage, and some are seen in their writing, and some are seen in a room. They can hold a room. Some are seen with their friends, right? The work is not to copy someone else's expression of visibility. The work is to find the way that you get to take up space. What is authentic to you? But again, this comes back down to your connection with your strong foundation, because here's what authenticity actually does. It's the thing that makes you visible. It's the thing that makes your visibility bear. It's the thing that will actually keep you stepping in through the fear. Because when you are being you, actually deeply you, there is nothing to defend. There is nothing to apologize for, because you are not performing a self. You are just being yourself. And that is the version of visibility that doesn't burn you out. That is a version of visibility that has you showing up, that doesn't leave you anxious after every post or anxious after an event, wondering whether you've said something, right? When we are looking for things to say and things to do to have people like us, that is not authenticity. But when we are using that energy to be visible and looking for that response back, we're looking for how did they react? How is it received? And we're making that mean whether we're good or bad. That is performing. That is performing our worth, that is performing our connection, that's performing our businesses, right? But on the other side of that, on the other side of her work, on the other side of you performing, taking off that costume, that woman, she doesn't need to be convinced to take up space. She doesn't need to be waiting for other people's reaction to her taking up space. And she stops asking, should I do that? And she starts asking, who am I withholding from if I don't? How do I express my authentic self and allow myself to be seen no matter what? Because that light, that authenticity, that expression, that is what infects the people around you. And when you are so connected to that, you don't abandon yourself for anyone, for any opinion, for anything. You are genuinely curious. You are genuinely sharing light. And that's the shift. That's the woman that I'm speaking to today. That's the shift and the woman that I'm trying to build. Now, I want to tell you who I'm talking about here. I want to share, I know at the start of the episode that there was a woman who is the reason I do this work, and she's the reason I show up every single day. I want to introduce her into this episode because she's the reason I record this podcast, even when I didn't feel like it. That woman is the reason I run my live events and the masterminds and the rooms. She's the reason that I keep going. And this is the shift that I want you to really see yourself in. I want you to picture her with me. She's listening to this podcast at 11 p.m. in the bath. She's crying. Something in this episode has cracked something open in her. And she takes a screenshot of one of the things I said and she posts it to her stories with emojis, and then she goes to bed. And on Monday, she goes back to her life. She doesn't change anything. She doesn't reach out. She doesn't come into a room. She doesn't say the thing she wanted to say to her husband. She doesn't ask for what she needs. She doesn't pitch the offer that she's been sitting on for a year. She doesn't take up the space she felt for a moment in that bath, like she could finally take up some space. She finds the next coach who tells her to manifest, who tells her to journal about it, visualize it. She spends 2 years, $1,000 learning how to bypass her own pain with affirmations, and she gets worse and she thinks it's her fault. She finds a therapist who keeps her in the story for 7 years. She talks about her mother every Tuesday at 2 p.m. She understands herself beautifully, but nothing changes. She finds the mindset bro who tells her to hustle through it, but she's burnt out. This time, her marriage doesn't survive it. She finds the spiritual bypasser who tells her everything's happening for a reason, everything's happening for her. And she spends another few years calling herself out, self-abandoning, but calling her self-abandonment as this surrender, right? And, calling her withdrawal for life in alignment. Or she finds nobody. Maybe she just gives up. She decides that this is just who she is. She makes peace with a life that's 2/3 of what it could have been. It's vanilla, it's boring, but it's consistent. And she tells herself that that's maturity. She's living like in her expectations. This is what she kind of wanted. And then there's the part that I cannot stop thinking about with this woman, because she walks past me at a conference in 2030. She doesn't know who I am. I don't know who she is, but she is the woman who would have changed everything if I had have kept showing up. And she's still waiting. She's waiting for that thing. She's performing. She's still apologizing for her existence. She's still dying quietly inside of a life she chose because she didn't know she could choose differently. That woman there is who I show up for every single day. That woman that is existing and not living, that woman who is a slave to her fear, that woman who is loyal to her patterns, that woman who knows there's this deep desire on her heart, but she is settling for mediocre life. This is the woman I show up for. And I'm telling you this because I want you to understand. When I talk to you about the cost of hiding, I'm not talking about your bank account. I'm talking about her. And every time you soften your pitch, every time you shrink, every time you don't say the thing, every time you blur the offer, every time you apologize for what you do and you take that week off because it feels icky, or you stay quiet at the dinner table, you swallow what you need to say. There is a woman on the other side of that decision who needed the confrontation. You were not able to give, who needed that feedback that you were too uncomfortable to deliver. She doesn't need you to be palatable and pamper her. She needs you to be the one person in her life who refuses to let her keep pretending that everything's fine. If you don't show up, someone less equipped will, and she'll pay them with the years she doesn't get back. And I mean that sincerely. That is what pushes me to show up every single day. Because if I don't, that woman on the other side that could be listening, that could be infected, that could be inspired, that could be guided, she'll just stay. She'll stay. And I don't want that for anyone. And that's the real heartbreak. Not that you don't make the sale. Let's call it money, because everyone can attune with that. It's not that you don't make that sale. It's not that the post didn't perform well on Instagram and it didn't get the comments and the likes and the visibility that you wanted. It's not that dinner conversation that didn't go well. The real heartbreak is that she didn't get the mirror. She didn't get the information. She didn't get to see the inspiration and the opportunity that is available to her in her life. And that's the pull that makes me show up. That woman in the bath, the one who screenshots the quote and goes back to her life on a Monday, I do not want her in the bath crying. I want her in the room. And that's why this matters. That's why visibility matters. Not because being seen is glamorous and you've got followers and you get to get products. It's not glamorous. It's because every woman who refuses to be seen is letting another woman drown quietly while she practices being small, while she practices being palatable. And this is hiding. It's not humble. It's not gracious. It's not selfless. It is expensive on so many different levels. And the person paying is almost never you alone. Now, I know I work with so many women that have so much magic and fire in whatever industry you're in. They have passion. They have purpose. They can infect the lives of those around them on a way that I've never actually, being part of my mastermind with so many women that have so many gifts and unique things that they want to teach and share with the world. I cannot stress this enough. When we hide our uniqueness to be palatable because we're scared of jumping, we are literally robbing other humans of the magic that we get to serve, of the magic that gets to enrich their life, no matter what you're doing. I don't care if you're an accountant. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you've got a product. If you are passionate and if you're in service, you are going to be gifting your authenticity, your uniqueness, your magic to whoever it is that comes across your path in whatever way that happens. And this is what I really want to hone in on, right? So how do you do it? How do you be seen? How do you let your uniqueness shine? How do you show up and not give a shit about the judgment? How do you show up and not care whether you get comments? How do you show up and not give a shit last time when I switched from influencer blogging, hospitality, not business, was I mortgage broker? When I shift from that life, right, and started talking energetics and identity and Reiki, my following count went backwards. It absolutely went backwards. And all the coaches and mentors, and they're like, it's good. We're sweeping out the numbers. You're going to have a real concentrated people on there that people want to work with. It's great. See them later. But you can't help but feel that, right? So how do you actually be seen and not be affected by that, right? You are going to be affected by things like that. But you get to choose whether you stay there or whether you've built a strong enough foundation to know that this is actually all happening for you and that your authenticity is not going to be compromised by anyone or anything. That is the most important part, the strong foundation. Because I can guarantee you, if you have not built that strong foundation of authenticity, you will be swaying in the wind. The moment that follower count goes down, the moment you get that one negative comment, one of your friends rolls her eyes at you, you'll be shrinking again because you haven't built that strong foundation, because you're dipping into performance to see will this work or not. So this is a strong foundation. And here is the truth. You do not become visible by trying harder. You become visible by being a woman who can no longer not be. And that doesn't happen alone. It doesn't happen in your head. It doesn't happen with scrolling. It doesn't happen with reading books and podcasts, listening. Well, it might happen here, but it doesn't happen on the couch, journaling at midnight. It happens in rooms with other women in real time, in practice. It happens with embodiment. It happens with taking off the costume and figuring out and finding out and falling in love with the person that's underneath, that person, that woman who was here to take up space. It happens in the moments where you say the thing out loud and somebody witnesses it, where you take up space in front of a person who reflects it back to you and doesn't flinch. The growth, where you build the foundations with other women, you will start to feel the freedom. Where you get to be seen and you do not collapse, that is where you start to feel the freedom, because you have learned it in your body that being seen does not kill you. And this is the muscle that we need to work. This is the muscle. You can do this alone, very, very slowly. But can you imagine how time collapses when you're in a room with other people that are cheering you on, that have your back, that are encouraging you to grow? If we want to grow, we have to face off with ourselves and be uncomfortable. You cannot grow this alone in your living room. It's like getting into a relationship, starting a business. You can sit in your house all day long and create and do your growth and do your journaling. But until you get out into the real wild world, the work does not begin. And this is where you build the muscle. This is why I do what I do. This is why I run live events. This is why I put high-level masterminds together. And this is why I invite women into rooms, because this is where they get to practice, actually practice being seen, right? Not just pushed out there and overloading your nervous system and feeling exposed, but you get to be witnessed. And you get to be witnessed by people who get it, by women who are doing the work, by women who are holding you while you find what it feels like to take up space as yourself, right? And I'm not in the business of giving you another quote to screenshot. I'm in the business of getting you out of the bath, getting you out of your living room and into the space where you can grow, be seen, be visible, and make an impact with your life. That is what I'm here to do. And I know that every single woman who even messages me on Instagram or reaches out or, working with me or comes to my events, they are asking, their intuition, their soul is asking to start taking up space, to be curious. They're curious about how to do this. They're curious about how to be seen. They know they've been suppressed for so long. They know they want the tools to grow, right? And you get to that point and then you make a reason or excuse to stop. And this is what I want to invite you into. If you know that you're ready to be visible and to be seen, and you want to keep tilting one foot in front of the other towards this bigger, greater life that you desire. And let me tell you one thing. If I could ask you to sit here and imagine this life that you've already achieved, like you want the house, you want the business, you want the marriage, you want whatever it is, you sit there and imagine it. What is she doing? How is she showing up? How does she move in her life? If you had the $1 million business, would you care about showing up on Instagram and what people said? If you had that really beautiful connected marriage, like a deep one, would you be flinching every time you're out and someone gave someone the side eye? Like, how would you be showing up if all your needs were met? You would be being seen, you'd be visible, and you'd be taking up space. This is the deep identity work that needs to happen. This is how you become her before the experience has actually been. You feel her now, you show up as her now, as if the things have already happened. So if you're running a business, if you're in a relationship, if it's a family, if it's extended family, whatever it is where you feel like you're ready to take up more space, ask yourself, what would need to happen? Like, what is my desire in that space? Put yourself in that energy so that you can show up as her now. Push your edges now. Face off with the fear or the data and use it as information now. But this is why the word visibility has really gone out the world into a lot of a different space. I want you to look at it as being seen, taking up space in whatever it is, an aspect of your life that you deserve to have a presence in, which is all of it, not just some parts, all of it. This work, and not a lot of the work that I do, I don't say everything can be done on your own, but when it comes to being seen and visibility, this really does exponentially grow you when you are in community. Right? It really, really does, because we need to train like a muscle. We need to create the evidence to show the nervous system that we're safe. And this is why we get in rooms. If this calls you, if you are ready to collapse time, be seen, be visible, grow a bigger life, make more money, deeper connection in relationships, heal from your divorce, stop shrinking, then get in touch. I have a live event, She Evolves, on the 20th of May. I have a mastermind, 6-month mastermind, which my women are going off. You want to talk about being seen? You need to jump in there. I cannot even explain the energy of that room. I have 2 one-on-one coaching 6-month containers that I work deeply with women in, and that is available. But you have to do the next step. You have to be willing to take charge of your own life, to show up, to be seen, to be visible. And this is the work, right? Digging the roots of visibility, the setting the strong foundation also has to come with movement at the same time. Foundations and visibility. Okay. And a woman who is becoming someone who can no longer not be seen. Don't be the woman who walks past me at a conference in 2030 with no change. Be the woman you want to be now. I love you. I'll see you next week.